You get into your car at night alone, and before you even start the engine, you check the back seat. Nobody told you to. You just do it. And here is the thing nobody ever explains. That is not anxiety. That is a 2-million-year-old survival system running exactly the way it was built to run. There is something specific about blind spots that the modern mind cannot leave alone. The back seat you cannot see from the driver's door. The far end of the shower curtain folded against the wall. The dark hallway behind you when you walk to the kitchen at 3 a.m. You know rationally that nothing is there. You checked last night. You checked the night before. And yet, the pull is there again. That quiet, almost embarrassing compulsion to look one more time before you allow yourself to settle. Most people interpret this as a sign that something is wrong with them. Too anxious, too jumpy, too much. What if the entire diagnosis is backwards? This is what happens when you finally understand the actual mechanism underneath that habit, not the pop psychology version, not the just breathe version, but the deep structural reason why your nervous system refuses to accept your rational reassurance. Because there is a reason it does not trust your logic. There is a reason it keeps asking. And the part of this that most people never reach is what it reveals about the kind of creature you actually are, and why that creature is not broken at all. So, let us start with what you have been told. You have probably been handed a label somewhere along the way. Hypervigilant, anxious, paranoid. Maybe you have labeled yourself. You walk into your house, you feel that flicker of unease near the dark corner of the room, and some part of you thinks, there is something wrong with me for feeling this. Healthy people do not do this. Calm people do not do this. Rational adults do not check the backseat of their own car like something out of a horror movie, except they do. Almost all of them. The research on this is consistent and quiet at the same time. The kind of finding that sits in behavioral science literature for decades without ever making headlines because it is too ordinary to be news. The majority of adults, across cultures, across demographics, perform some version of a blind spot check before entering a vulnerable state, before sleep, before showering, before sitting with their back to an open room. The behavior is so common it has become invisible. And invisible behaviors are the ones that never get explained. The phenomenon has a name that researchers in threat detection neuroscience use when they are being precise about it. It is called predator inspection behavior, and before that phrase floats away as jargon, here is what it actually means in your body. Imagine a smoke detector that does not wait for smoke. It samples the air constantly, and anytime there is a configuration it cannot fully read a space it cannot see into, a shadow with ambiguous edges, a sound that could be wind or could be footsteps. It runs a mandatory confirmation loop. It does not ask your permission. It does not consult your prefrontal cortex about whether the probability is low. It runs the loop because the cost of skipping it, even once, was historically fatal. That is predator inspection behavior, not a disorder. A detector doing its job. The scientist whose work cracked this open most cleanly is not a therapist and not a fear researcher in the clinical sense. His name is Daniel Blumstein, and he spent over 2 decades in the field studying vigilance patterns in prey animals' marmots, specifically in the Rocky Mountain ranges. What he found, and what he spent years mapping into a broader framework, is that the inspection loop is not triggered by confirmed threat. It is triggered by unresolved ambiguity. The animal does not check because it saw a predator. It checks because it could not rule one out. That distinction is everything. Your nervous system is not malfunctioning when it sends you back to look at the shower curtain. It is responding to the precise condition it was designed to respond to. A space you could not fully see, a threat you could not fully eliminate. The loop does not close on logic. It closes on confirmation. Now here is where the ancestors come in, and this is the part that changes how the whole thing feels. For roughly 2 million years, the hominid line lived in environments where predators were not hypothetical. Lions do not announce themselves. Leopards in sub-Saharan Africa are documented to have taken adult humans well into the 20th century, and the fossil record shows clear evidence of big cat predation on early Homo. The blind spots that mattered were not metaphorical. They were the tall grass you could not see past, the rock outcropping you had to walk around, the dark interior of a sleeping shelter where something could have entered while you were gathering food. The individuals who felt compelled to check those spaces before relaxing, before sleeping, before turning their back, before becoming vulnerable survived at slightly higher rates than those who did not feel that compulsion. Slightly higher rates, repeated across thousands of generations, is how a behavior becomes universal. That pull you feel in the dark hallway is not a glitch in your wiring. It is the inheritance of every ancestor who lived long enough to pass their genes forward. There is a second mechanism layered underneath this one, and it explains something even more specific: why the check does not always feel like enough. Why you can look at the back seat, confirm it is empty, and still feel a residual unease for another 30 seconds. This is the amygdala's temporal lag, the gap between the visual confirmation your cortex receives and the full chemical stand-down your threat system requires. The amygdala, which drives the inspection loop in the first place, does not receive the all-clear the same way your conscious mind does. It requires what neuroscientists call somatic resolution, a moment where the body, not just the brain, registers safety. A full breath, a moment of stillness, the physical sensation of the environment settling around you. Without that, the rational confirmation, "I looked, it's empty," sits in one system while the alarm sits unacknowledged in another. This is why people sometimes check twice. Not because they are irrational, because the first check satisfied the cortex and left the amygdala still waiting for its signal. And this is where the modern world creates a specific, invisible cost. The environments we inhabit now were not designed with somatic resolution in mind. You check the back seat, you start the engine, the radio comes on, your phone lights up with a notification, and the nervous system never gets its 30 seconds of stillness. The loop technically ran, but it never fully closed. Over days and weeks and years of this, the baseline threat register creeps upward. Not because more threats exist, but because the ancient system keeps accumulating unresolved confirmations checks that ran but never landed. The fatigue that comes from modern anxiety is, in a significant part, the fatigue of a predator detection system that is working constantly and being interrupted constantly before it can finish its own resolution cycle. So here is what actually helps, not as a workaround, but as a way of working with the system instead of against it. First, let the check be real. When you feel the pull to look at the back seat or the dark corner of the room, do not rush through it. Look fully, deliberately, and then hold still for 5 seconds afterward. You are not indulging anxiety. You are giving the amygdala the somatic confirmation it is waiting for so the loop can actually close. This is called completion-based regulation, and it is the difference between feeding a cycle and finishing one. Second, name the ambiguity out loud, even in a whisper. "I can't see behind the curtain," said aloud. Not suppressed activates the prefrontal cortex as an active participant rather than a spectator. Language processing and threat processing share neural resources. When you name the uncertainty, you are literally recruiting a different part of the brain into the moment, which shortens the resolution time measurably. Third, after the check, change your physical orientation deliberately. Turn your back to the wall, sit down, let your shoulders drop. This is not a relaxation technique in the spa day sense. It is a posture signal, the body communicating to the nervous system that you have chosen a position of confirmed safety, which is the oldest somatic signal in the mammalian threat response repertoire. The person who checks the back seat is not someone whose nervous system is running too hot. They are someone whose nervous system is running exactly the calibration that kept the human line alive through 2 million years of genuine, non-metaphorical danger. The world changed faster than biology ever could. We built cars and apartments and electric light and the statistical near elimination of apex predator encounters in daily life, and we did all of that in about 200 years, which is not even a breath in evolutionary time. The software did not get the update. It is still scanning for the leopard. And the next time you feel that pull to look one more time, before you dismiss it, before you call it irrational, consider what it actually is, the oldest, most loyal part of you, still standing watch, still refusing to let you walk into a blind spot unconfirmed. That is not a flaw you inherited. That is the reason you are here at all.